All right, greetings everyone. Welcome back. How's it going? Hope this finds you well. Here in this video, I'm going to be giving another tutorial, some further resources to aid your study of the Sanskrit language. Here we're going to be looking at how to use online Sanskrit dictionaries. So this is a question that I get asked quite frequently. And I thought, why not just put this together in a PDF workflow and then put together a little tutorial video to show you how you can get started immediately using online digital tools, online Sanskrit dictionaries. So this is some really powerful tools to aid your study, to build your vocabulary, to begin looking up Sanskrit words in the dictionary. And I'm happy to say that you'll be able to use these dictionaries right away, even if you don't know the Devanagari script. Okay, so these online tools and dictionaries we're going to be talking about today, you can use the English alphabet or the so-called Roman script to enter and type in words. Okay, and I'll say more about that here shortly. All right, so everything I'm going to show you here, you can also find in this PDF workflow, which you can download at the link directly below this video. So you can follow these steps here in the PDF, or you can see it visually here in the video screen flow here. Okay, so the first thing to mention is that there are many different methods, and today some incredible tools for utilizing Sanskrit dictionaries. And each student or scholar of the language is really going to have their own preferred approach, okay? In this workflow, I'm going to demonstrate a few common and very easy to use methods that can get you up and running today. But really, the first thing to mention here before we talk about these online and digital tools is really to say that, especially for a beginning student of the Sanskrit language, it's always best to use a printed or physical dictionary. By using a printed book, the student is required to look up Sanskrit words based on the traditional arrangement of the letters in the Sanskrit alphabet. That is to say, in Sanskrit dictionaries, words do not appear according to the order of the English alphabet from A to Z, right? But rather, in a Sanskrit dictionary, words are going to occur in concordance with the order of the Sanskrit alphabet. So A, I, and so on, beginning with the vowels, and then starting with the consonants, K, K, G, G, and so on, okay? So this means that when you're using a traditional printed Sanskrit dictionary, you are being forced to commit to memory and to understand the structure and order of the Sanskrit alphabet in order to look up words. So this can be a bit challenging in the beginning, but ultimately is a great tool to reinforce the structure and concordance of the Sanskrit alphabet, which is really important actually just in the way that the language and the grammar is constructed. Okay, so for better or worse, when using an online dictionary, knowledge of this traditional order of the alphabet is not mandatory. To use a printed dictionary, one must look up for a nominal word, that is an adjective or a noun or a participle, using its stem form. Okay, so you have to look up words using the stem form of the word rather than what is often its more familiar nominative form. So to look up, here's a few examples. You would need to look up the word yogin rather than the more familiar yogi. Yogin is the stem form. Likewise, karman rather than karma, pustaka rather than pustakam, the word for book, and so on. For verbs, one will look up the verbal root or dhatu, for example, yuj, gum, pat, and so on, rather than the fully declined verbal form. You're going to look up the verbal root. Okay, so for nominal forms, using these printed Sanskrit dictionaries, typically you use the stem form rather than some declined form of the word with a case ending. And for verbs, you're going to look up the verbal root. There are several different printed Sanskrit dictionaries. Here are two recommended and sort of classic go-to dictionaries. The first, perhaps most famously, is the Monier-Williams Sanskrit English Dictionary, which is quite a mammoth tome of a book in its printed form. And likewise, perhaps about the same size, is Apte's The Practical Sanskrit English Dictionary. For Monet-Williams, you don't have to only know Devanagari. It also has printed the words using Roman transliteration. But for Apte, the words are only printed in Devanagari script, okay, for these printed dictionaries. There's actually a portable and much more compact edition of Apte, which I highly recommend, is really handy to have. That's a much more manageable size. So you can look up links right here to purchasing any of these printed dictionaries. Okay, so that's all I'm really going to say for now about printed Sanskrit dictionaries, because this video is really about these online and digital resources. But again, just to repeat, I do highly recommend, especially for beginning students of the language, to have at least one of these printed dictionaries on hand. And to use it to reinforce your knowledge of the Sanskrit alphabet. And there's just nothing that replaces these words in print and the ability to look up a word and then see all these other etymologically related words side by side. And it can be quite a valuable exercise just reading through these dictionaries. But as we will see, there are some incredible digitized resources now available, and in many ways you can also simply do this on your laptop or any of your devices, as we're going to see here today. All right, so moving right along now, and really now getting to the heart of this video tutorial, online dictionaries. All right, so with that said about the value of printed dictionaries, today there are truly an incredible range of online and digital tools for looking up Sanskrit words that do not require one to lug around a heavy book and can make looking up words incredibly fast and fun. Okay, so our first stop here on our tutorial is to click this link right here, the Cologne Digital Sanskrit Dictionaries. And it's going to take you to this amazing archive of digitized Sanskrit dictionaries that has been being prepared by the Institute of Indology and Tonal Studies at Cologne University in Germany since 1994. And here you're going to see that there are 36 different dictionaries, some highly specialized, some more general. These are dictionaries that move from Sanskrit to English, Sanskrit to French, German, even Latin dictionary here. You have Bopp's Glossarium Sanskritum. You even have Sanskrit to Sanskrit dictionaries, and all of these incredible specialized dictionaries, Purana, Vedic, Mahabharata, names of plants. Check that out. It's a really incredible resource for Sanskrit names of flora and fauna. Anyways, there's a lot on here. I encourage you to explore this site and see all of these resources for yourself that are being made available here for free on the internet. Okay, so in this tutorial though, we're going to focus our attention on two of these online Sanskrit dictionaries. We're going to be looking here at the Monet-Williams Sanskrit English Dictionary, as well as Apte's Practical Sanskrit English Dictionary. And really, the workflow here for using these two dictionaries is almost the exact same. So we're going to focus most of our attention here on Monet-Williams. Okay, so to begin here, you can click this link right here. it'll take you to this screen. You can do basic display, but what I'm going to show you and that I recommend is actually to click this advanced search here, and is going to bring up this screen. This is kind of our dictionary dashboard here. You can see this is using the 1899 printed edition of Monet-Williams. Okay, so there's a few different features here of how to customize your search that are very important and that we want to give attention to. Okay, the first here is this is where you're going to type in your word, your Sanskrit term, and then you have this drop-down menu here where you can say what type of letters are you entering. Is this an exact word? Is it a prefix, suffix, infix, or substring of letters? Okay, so if you're going to be using exact, then you need to know the exact spelling of the stem form of the word. Okay, so just to take example here, Yogin. Okay, type in Yogin, you can hit enter, return, or click search. And if you type that in, it's going to give you exactly that one single entry here for the term Yogin. But say that you didn't know the full stem form, you couldn't remember that IN ending. And so you could simply type in yog and put that as a prefix. And if you search as a prefix, this doesn't mean grammatically the concept of a prefix, but rather just any string of letters or words that begin a word. And it's now going to pull up all of the Sanskrit words, including, as you can see, some of these long compounds that simply begin with yog. So you're going to get quite a bit more. Right now we have the output set to 20, but you could show all, search, and you're now going to see a huge number of words beginning with this prefix, this string of letters yog, right? If you want to get a little bit, you say, well, that's too much. What about yogi? Yogi, search. Well, still, you're going to find quite a few words that begin with that, but here you can find yogin right there. Okay, so using the prefix tool is helpful if you don't know the exact spelling of the stem word. Likewise, you could also do suffix. Okay, and you could type in IN and you could see all of the Sanskrit terms that end with this suffix IN. Well, you're going to get a huge output here. Here's just starting with the first letter, So you can see these are listed now in order of the concordance of the Sanskrit alphabet, but it's going to do that automatically for you here. Okay, or you can also search with the infix, which is any string of letters just inside of a Sanskrit word. Okay, so we could say OGI, Ogi. Let's see what comes up there. Okay, and then here you see, you're going to see this output of terms with that infix of letters in between, in the midst of a word. Okay, and then finally you can also use substring to show larger compound words or words using prefixes. Let me show you if we just type in the word yogin fully here, but you do it as a substring. Okay, now it's going to show you all of these larger compound words, Kala Yogin, Gopala Yogin, Dhyana Yogin, and so forth. So substring is kind of a nice way to look up compound words or nominal forms that are utilizing some of these prefixes before the word. Okay, so that's really the first thing to bring your attention to here is this drop-down menu here that's going to determine how the search engine here functions and what results are going to yield from these particular words. Okay, often if you know the exact spelling of the word, you can just use exact and you can just look it up, or you can use prefix if you know the first few letters but you're not exactly sure what that ending of the stem form is. Okay, so that's the first step here. And if we then scroll down in our PDF, we will now come to what is perhaps the most important feature, really, of using one of these online Sanskrit dictionaries, is the input schema. okay, which is this menu right here, okay? So here you're going to need to establish which transliteration schema that you're going to be typing. How are you going to type to represent the sounds, really, of the Sanskrit language? So this can be a little bit tricky in the beginning, and there are a few different options, as you can see here. And this also is going to depend on which online Sanskrit dictionary you're using, which transliteration schema, which is to say how you're going to type in these Sanskrit words, okay? So for this particular Monet-Williams Sanskrit English Dictionary, you have these three options, these three different visual maps, let's say, or transliteration schemas for typing in Sanskrit letters and words. You have what's known as the Kyoto-Harvard system, SLP1, and iTrans, okay? If you come over here and you click this help button, you will then see here are the different keys, these different charts for how to type all of the Sanskrit letters using these three different schemas. Okay, so as you can see, each one of these is quite different actually. And you're going to want to choose one of these and become fluent and conversant in it, okay? For each of these, it's going to have unique keys then on your keyboard that are used to replicate each of the Sanskrit aksharas or characters of the alphabet. If we go back to our PDF here, while IAST, that is the International Alphabet of Sanskrit Transliteration, is the most common and preferred way to type and print Sanskrit, unfortunately this is not the most precise or common way to input text in an online dictionary such as this. Okay, so in our previous tutorial I was showing you how to type using IAST, using those diacritic marks above and below the letters, as we're commonly familiar seeing in printed Sanskrit if it's typed in transliteration. So that is the IAST schema. Well, to use these dictionaries, you have to use one of these, which is slightly different, as you can see. So this does make using these dictionaries a little bit challenging in the beginning, but with a little bit of practice, it's quite easy. And personally, I recommend using the Kyoto-Harvard schema, which is what I'm going to demonstrate here, and consists of these characters. So let's close this now and go back to our dictionary. Okay, and so if you look now just at this schema of characters, you'll see, for example, typing the short letter A is going to give us the Typing a capital A is going to give us the long ah. Typing a short I is going to give a short I, and that capital I gives you the long E. So you can see the pattern there. For aspirated consonants, you'll simply type an H to give it the aspirated. For the nasals, you'll see them right here as follows. For the sibilants, you'll want to pay close attention to that, and you can see that's going to be the Z, capital S, and lowercase s is going to give you those three different sibilants. For the visarga, that's going to be a capital H, you see here, is the visarga. And for the anusvara, that's going to be a capital M. Okay, so you'll need to play around with this a bit and familiarize yourself with this Kyoto-Harvard or Harvard-Kyoto schema, because this is what you're going to need to use to input your Sanskrit words into the dictionary. Okay, so this does take some getting used to in the beginning. There's a bit of a learning curve here, but very quickly with practice, pretty soon you'll just be typing Sanskrit using these letters simply from memory. But in the beginning, it's really helpful to have another window open or to have this printed, having kind of that visual key or map handy. Okay, so that is the input here. You can, if you prefer, you could use one of these other ones. and you can simply use these keys here to become familiar with those, view the chart, but I recommend the Harvard Kyoto. Okay, so just a couple examples here so that you can see this in action using the Kyoto Harvard system here. To type in the name of the god, the word Shiva, it's going to look like this. Okay, and there you see Shiva. Okay, to type in the term Rishi, it's going to look like this. You see, so at first it takes a little bit of getting used to some of these characters here. This is the vocalic R, vocalic R with the dot under it. This is the retroflex sibilant sh with the S with the diacritic under it here. Okay, so that takes a little bit of getting used to, just this Harvard Kyoto schema here, but once you've got it down, it makes typing words in really easy. Okay, so that's the input schema. Then you'll notice you also, though, you have an options for the output schema. Okay, so right now I currently have this set on Roman Unicode, which is actually this IAST. You see our more familiar transliteration system with the diacritics below or above the characters. And I recommend using this if you don't know Devanagari. But here you can see you can also have the output code here be Devanagari, and you can simply change that, click search, and now it's going to list Rishi using Devanagari, and it pulls up our Monet-Williams entry here using only Devanagari. Of course, it's still the English entries, but all of the terminology here is now in Devanagari script. So that can be fun to play around with and is preferred perhaps if you know Devanagari script, but you can also do Roman Unicode in addition to the other three. So if you want to keep it as that Harvard Kyoto, you can also do that, and then you'll see the entries exactly as you put them in, like that. Okay, so here you have these options for inputting the text and for outputting the text. Okay, and again, you can change the number of entries that will yield here simply right there. Okay, so let's now put all of this into practice. We've already typed in a few words so you can see how that works, but I want to now look at the entry here itself. So let's actually type in our word yoga. Go ahead, we've got Kyoto Harvard, we've got exact. This is the exact stem form of the term. I'm going to put my output just for now as Roman Unicode, and let's go ahead and hit search. And here you see our entry for the word yoga. Now here you can actually start scrolling down, and you'll see that just for this one term yoga, there's an incredibly long entry of meanings. In fact, it's a well-known fact that yoga has one of the longest entries in the entire dictionary. Okay, so when using these dictionaries, now you run into a more philosophical or theoretical question, which is to say, how do you choose a meaning? How do you choose a translation? How do I know which one is the correct meaning of the term yoga here in this instance? Okay, and here, however, is where context and genre of Sanskrit matters greatly. Okay, so it really depends. If we're talking about the term yoga, we have to ask in what context. Okay, what's important to note here for this dictionary is that Monet-Williams lists these entries according to their usage in texts, typically beginning with the Vedic texts, typically the Rig Veda, and then moves chronologically through instances of this term within Sanskrit literature. It moves through chronologically, followed by the Mahabharata, the epics, Katha, Puranas, and so on. So if you look here, each of these blue acronyms is referencing a particular text, sometimes the author or the specific name of a text. And if you click right here in the PDF, this is actually going to give you a complete list of all of these abbreviations. The problem here, I guess for those of you who don't know Devanagari, is that it gives you the full title here in Devanagari only. Okay, so that is only helpful, I guess, for those of you who know Devanagari. But nonetheless, that's what's going on here with the blue. These are abbreviations of text. So this is Rig Veda, Mahabharata, and so on. So the different meanings are referring to different instances that Monet-Williams had located within particular texts. So specific usages of the term yoga. Okay, and what's important to note is that the early Vedic usages, like from the Rig Veda, are really more appropriate for understanding older Vedic Sanskrit. And while the entries from, say, the Mahabharata, the Puranas, the epics, and many of these other texts are going to be more common occurrences of these terms, and thus more appropriate meanings for classical Sanskrit. We can also see that there are sometimes very particular and sometimes unusual instances of words that are really unique to very specific texts, authors, or genres of Sanskrit. Okay, so to just take one example here, you see that yoga is defined as a remedy or a cure. This is actually taken from the Sushruta Samhita, which is an ancient Sanskrit medical text. Okay, so in this ancient medical text, the term yoga is used as a remedy or a cure. However, this would be an entirely inappropriate translation in English for the term yoga within the context of, say, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, a totally different genre of highly technical philosophical sutra writing, where Patanjali has a very, very specific and technical usage of the term yoga. Okay, so it's not so simple that we can simply just pick any entry here that we want. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of complexity and sophistication here. We have to pay attention to the context, to the genre. And so there really is both an art and a science to using these dictionaries and determining which of these entries are most appropriate. Okay, and a few more things to point out here, some further information that we get in this entry for the term yoga. Monet-Williams tells us that this noun, this nominal form yoga, he tells us the gender of the term, which here is masculine. Okay, and so if you hover over this, it actually will populate that for you, masculine gender. And then oftentimes Monet-Williams will also provide the Sanskrit root or dhatu that this nominal is derived from, in this case, yuj. Okay, so that can be very helpful information here. And then one more thing to point out, which is really one of the coolest features of, I think, of this digital dictionary. He tells you the page number of where this is printed in the physical print dictionary. And if you click on this, this is actually a hyperlink. If you click on the page number, this will actually take you to a complete digital scan of the entire Monet-Williams dictionary. It takes you right to page 856. You scroll down and boom, there is the original entry for the term yoga. And you can see now the complete entry here as it's printed in the dictionary. And you can see, again, this is a really long entry. It spans across this column, and you have to then go to the next page. So really cool. You can then just scroll through the dictionary digitally And you can see for 3 more columns, this entry continues. Part of the reason is you can see there's all of these compounds that are being defined here. Yogananda, Yoganata, Yoganavika, Yoganidra, and so on. So some very interesting things here. Yogapata. Okay, for those of you who've taken my courses, you know I love to talk about the Yogapata or the Yogapataka, the cloth thrown over the back knees of a devotee during meditation. That is to say, the yoga strap, the cloth yoga strap. Okay, and it goes on and on and on. So it's really fun and interesting to look through these full and complete entries here. So there's a lot of information you have here. These entries, the actual Sanskrit literary examples where in the texts these particular definitions are occurring. And then amazing, you have actually a link to an entire scanned and digitized version of the dictionary as well. Okay, so fantastic resource here. Get familiar with this Kyoto Harvard schema, and you can start typing in Sanskrit using the Roman characters immediately and looking up words today using this Monet-Williams dictionary. Okay, and then briefly, let's just take a look now at the Apte dictionary. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and just click this link right here to pull that up. You could go back to the Cologne University with our full list, and you can access it there too. And you'll see they have it set up the exact same way. You're going to use all those same principles, exact, prefix, and so on. Use your preferred schema here to type in your words. The one thing, though, I want to point out just quickly here about the Apte dictionary is that rather than the stem form, oftentimes here, Apte does prefer that you use the nominative singular. Okay, so this makes this sometimes a little bit more tricky. Rather than yoga, if I type in yoga here, exact, and click search, it says no matches found. And you're going to think, what? Did I spell yoga wrong? Is it yoga? Is it yoga? What's wrong with me? No, it's definitely yoga. But what Apte is looking for is the nominative singular, which has the visarga ending that yoga-ha. Okay, so you have to type it like that, yoga-ha, if you're going to do the exact search. So because of that, because that's easy to forget, or you might not know what the nominative singular is right away, I encourage you to look that up. But an easier way to do this is then just to use prefix. Okay, so if you know the first few characters, or you can just simply type in yoga, and then it's going to give you these few entries. And here then you'll click on yoga-ha. Okay, so one additional little complexity of the Apte is that it often wants the nominative singular. And so sometimes rather than using the exact keyword search, you might like to use prefix. In some ways, that's one of the disadvantages, I think, of the Apte dictionary, but one of the strong advantages of Apte, and why in some ways it's actually preferable than Monet-Williams, is rather than listing these entries for the term yoga in terms of their chronological appearance from the Rig Veda onward, rather than giving first the Vedic meaning, Apte lists the meanings of these words in order of common usage. So it really lists the most common meaning and understanding of the term within the broadest range of classical Sanskrit literature. So here you see joining, united, union, junction. All of these are listed first rather than much further down the list. Which in many ways reflects how the term yoga really has been used historically, just to take this one example. Okay, so that's something very important and helpful to keep in mind, that Apte lists these meanings, broadly speaking, according to their most common usage rather than the chronological occurrence within Sanskrit literature. Okay, but otherwise this functions pretty much the same. And again here, just like for Monet-Williams, you can click on the page number here and it pulls up the complete digital scan of the Apte dictionary. Amazing, right? You'll notice here for Apte, again, these entries are only in Devanagari. Here you have Yogaha, whereas Monet-Williams had the Devanagari and the Roman transliteration. Okay, so that's a key difference between these two printed dictionaries. All right, so there you have it, both the Apte and Monet-Williams online digital free Sanskrit dictionaries. Pretty easy to use. Again, you just have to figure out this transliteration schema and you can start typing away and having a lot of fun looking up Sanskrit words. Okay, but there's actually one more tool I want to share with you. That's actually an iOS app from the Academic Room in conjunction with Harvard University Innovation Lab. And this is a really awesome Sanskrit dictionary tool. I'm going to go ahead and click this link here and show this to you. Unfortunately, if you are an Android or PC user, this is only for Mac iOS. This app is only for iPhone and iPads, okay? And unlike the other resources that I just showed you, this one is not free. It does cost $7.99, but when you see what you're getting for this and how much work they put into this, $8 for this app is an incredible deal, and I use this all the time. One of the really great features of this app is that, one, it's mobile. You have it right on your phone, right in your pocket, and you can use it offline. So those other two dictionaries, obviously you have to use with a Wi-Fi or internet connection. There are ways to install those digital dictionaries onto your desktop using dictionary apps and to use those offline, but that's a tutorial and a complex tutorial for another day. But this app you can absolutely use offline and is really great for looking words up on the go. The other amazing thing about this app is that it provides not one, not two, but 3 dictionaries in one. You have Apte, Monet-Williams, as well as another dictionary, Macdonell. So when you enter a word in, it's going to give you the entries for all 3 of these dictionaries together. So that itself makes this a really incredible tool. You can also click this heart and it will favorite particular Sanskrit words, and you can build your own vocab list and kind of personal library of Sanskrit terms. That's a really great feature of this tool. The one caveat of this app, other than that it's a paid app and it's only for iPhone and iPad, is that you do have to type, currently you have to type in Devanagari script. Okay, so you can't type using Roman transliterations or using the Harvard Kyoto schema. Fortunately, if you know Devanagari, it's actually really easy to set up and install a Devanagari keyboard on your iPhone or on your iPad. You can simply just use the Hindi keyboard, which uses the same Devanagari script. So here's a quick little workflow here in settings on how to install that Hindi Devanagari keyboard layout on your iPhone or iPad. Really easy. And then you can just click this globe button here to toggle through your different keyboard layouts on your iPad or iPhone. So this is a caveat. You do have to use Devanagari script here. Perhaps another incentive for you to learn Devanagari. But if you do know the script, it's really easy to set up on your phone and really easy to use. All right, so there you go. This is another great digital Sanskrit dictionary tool. I use this personally all the time and highly recommend that you check this out. All right, so there you have it, everyone. that is our video tutorial here on how to use, I guess, both print and online Sanskrit dictionaries. Check out this Cologne Digital Sanskrit Dictionaries page. It's an incredibly valuable resource. Please feel free to drop me a comment or a line. Let me know what you think of this video, or if you have any questions. I hope that this was easy to follow and that you can get plugging away immediately using these Sanskrit dictionaries. All right, thanks so much, everyone. Take care.